There weren't a lot of, kids coming out of war-torn Somalia and half singing, half rapping. It wasn't what was happening when I was putting out music. My music is a bit, like myself. It's what happens in sound if you had my life. What I love most about my birth country, Somalia, is the incredible and profound respect that they have for language. That's what makes or breaks a characteristic of a person, is how eloquent they can be. When I was 7, my mother kind of made it my duty that I would fetch my grandpa and bring him back for lunch. And my grandpa happened to be one of the country's most influential and loved poets. And so here I am, as a boy, not really understanding the reverence in the streets when we walk and why people treat him the way that they do, and then coming to know that it's really all because of his words. Those kinds of things, I think, had a profound effect on me. My father, he'd been trying to get us a way out of the country. During the dictatorship, when a lot of the intellectuals had to flee the country, he left then and ended up being a cab driver in Harlem. So he became aware of what was happening in the streets and sent me a vinyl, and it was Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full. And that's kind of was like the first time I'm ever hearing what like hip-hop sounded like. That was the soundtrack of New York in my mind. I think the most important element of it for me was that I had dreamt of like reuniting with my father and living in New York and getting out of the war zone, and hip-hop became the dream of a soundtrack, like the soundtrack to my dreams. I left Somalia when I was 13. The one thing that was still connected to my country, strangely, was hip-hop, because I'd heard it back then, and then it was still something that was connected to my future. I remember being like in the neighborhoods and starting to rap, starting to understand the English language, and kind of like impressing the kids around the neighborhood. I remember one kid who was really well-intentioned. He wanted me to one day be a successful rapper. And he said, "Man, you don't even smoke, man. Like, I feel sorry for you. How you gonna be a rapper, man? You don't even smoke." I love that. Being a Muslim, what is good about it for me was there's a certain set of values or certain crossroads that a career like mine brings you to almost all the time. And I just always choose to retain something of of the aesthetics of being a Muslim, or the value systems that I was raised in. And I think that that's been very defining. Waving Flag became the biggest song in the world, like a cultural expression in a way. I would walk into restaurants in Italy and they would have a pasta named after it. It's just like, this is insane. Even though I had written it and performed it, I just was like, okay, well, this isn't really about me. This is about song that finds its way to be a voice for something. That a kid from Somalia ends up being in front of the world in that way, and being in front of presidents. Juxtaposition in that with the experiences I come from. Life is, like they say, it's almost always stranger than fiction, and we just have to kind of pay attention to the details to know how strange it is.